Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for coming to the meeting tonight. Please please take the attendance.
All council members are present, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Item 3, the approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Duran. Here. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Tiltonburn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Motion passes. We now have open forum. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the council on an item not listed on tonight's agenda?
Hello. My name is Matthew. A little bit north of town. My
Sir,
concern.
you might want to get up to the mic a little bit better.
She even
And
told.
you have 3 minutes.
She even told me to that, and I didn't listen.
And you
to
have
her.
3 minutes, sir.
Won't need 3 minutes. There was an event in the park. I don't even know what the 11th. Drag queen, family friendly. On the ad, don't forget your dollars. They're coming to slay and like to get paid. Okay, I'm just drag show, family friendly. Let me repeat that one more time. Don't forget your dollars. They're coming to slay and would like to get paid. As a parent in this particular county, and my kids go here, and I called some officials, Brookings County officials, and was somewhat stunned by the answers that I got from almost everyone. Shouldn't have been. I mean, I think Brookings the last couple of years with the whole COVID thing has kind of lost its way. And here's just another example. So basically, all that I would like to say is, I don't know, look at that. And then the only other thing I want to say is shame on you. Shame on you for allowing that. It's just totally unacceptable. In there's so many ways I can't even. So I want to keep it simple, but again, I'm just going to say it one more time. Shame on you. I'm embarrassed. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else have any comments?
Hi, everybody. Kelsey Town, and recently this weekend participated in the community games. I just want to give everybody a kudos, and especially Dusty and his team. It was phenomenal. It was such a great community building event. We had 4 teams. I was proud to be on the winning team again. It was just a lot of fun. So I really urge you to, if you haven't been involved in those, come check it out next year and keep having them. They're doing an awesome job. Great job.
Thank you. Okay. Consent agenda. Is there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda?
I'd like to say
Oh.
something.
Yeah, open forum. This would be a good time for that, Bonnie.
At the last citizens expressed concerns about the Pride celebrations, and I do believe it's important that citizens are allowed to speak and express their opinions, but I also think it's vital that people realize that it's opinions and not necessarily fact. I want to state that there's no evidence that LGBT individuals molest children at higher rates than heterosexuals, which was stated last week. And this was originally used in a political campaign. Some of us are old enough to remember that. 45 years ago, and it was used to stoke fear about homosexuality, and it has since been debunked publicly and repeatedly with scientific data. And if anybody would like links to some of the references, I'd be happy to supply it with them if they just drop me an email. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'll ask one more for an open forum. Seeing none, we'll go to consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Been moved and second. Is there any public comment on this item? Closed public hearing. Is there any council comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker. Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, I've got a proclamation for Park and Rec Board. I gotta sign this thing quick. We got representatives? Yeah, okay. Yep, it's on. Okay. Mayor proclamation, whereas health and wellness, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. Whereas Parks and Rec encourages physical activities by providing space for activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Rec increases economic prosperity through increased property values, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. Whereas Brookings recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Therefore, it be resolved, I, OPG Niemeyer, Mayor of City of Brookings, do hereby proclaim July as Parks and Rec Month.
Okay. 50. I came to Brookings to interview with the Brookings School District, and they asked me to come back later in the day, which I thought was a good sign. And so I spent the day touring Brookings, and back then, Hayes Street South, where Brookings High School was like the end of town. Gravel road, a couple of farms on 8th Street South, that type of thing. But I hit some parks. And later on, Alan Ferricks told me that we had something very unique in Brookings. At that time, maybe, I don't know how much longer, but I think since 55 or so years ago, we were the only community in South Dakota that had a formal joint use agreement between the school district and the city for paying for and using facilities. Later on, I had the opportunity to serve on a bond election committee for athletic fields, and it didn't pass, but all of the major things on there, city government and the counselors got it all done over a matter of years, even though the election failed. And so the credit goes to you. Everybody that's been a city councilor, mayor, city administrators over the time, this proclamation is for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Presentation of 211 mobile app. Heidi Gullickson, our United Way director, will present this item.
Thank you, everyone. To this tool that we have out here for us to use, and not over statewide. So encourage, if you're traveling or you have family and friends in other places in South Dakota, feel free to pass on the information. But as you can see, it's available on both the App Store and the Google Play Store, and it's just a quick free app that you can download. Once you get in there, it will search. You can search by whatever data you put in, if you put in a zip code, or you can use your current location. So if you're traveling, you'll be able to pull it up by where you are. Once inside there, there's different categories, and just a couple that I'll bring up. Some of the things that you'll find in there, if you look under like financial resources, there's things like, my glasses on so I can read them, the rent payment assistance. So if you click on that one, that'll pull up all of the different organizations and resources here in Brookings County. And then there's sometimes ones that will show up on a statewide. If you maybe are a veteran or you are part of a certain population, there will maybe statewide associations that can assist as well. So all of that pulls in. Another one that I think probably gets a lot of use would be the mental health area. And so on there, it will pull up separate or specific types of sectors of mental health. And it'll also take you to our mental health guide, which is specific to Brookings and has all of the providers listed. So that is updated once a year. And in some communities, it is just the nonprofit resources for mental health that are put in there. But in Brookings, we felt it was important to have all of the resources. So Helpline Center does receive $1,000 from the city council to help make that possible, along from $1,000 from the county to help make that possible, and then we administer it. So thank you guys for your support in that. Become a topic, and we want this resource to be accessible at fingertips at all times. So a quick way to find it is in there. Lots of different topics in here that you can choose. Another one would be volunteer or donate. So if you have things in your home and you're like, I don't need this anymore, but there's a lot of useful life in there, you can click on those, and all of the different organizations that said, hey, we take donations, you can click on them and see what type of items that they can handle at their space, and then helps you know where to go. So also in here, there are an events calendar that kind of covers statewide, and then also you can, when you're pulling up something, you can say, hey, this is one I'm probably going to go to a lot, and you can click it into your favorites, so then things are even faster for you to find. So just another tool that's out there, another resource. Helpline Center, again, covers the entire state of South Dakota, and we're very, very thankful for that, to have that service and to be able to use that resource. And again, encourage folks to go and search out things there, but then also for organizations that you're a part of, make sure that you're listed and your information is updated, because it all pulls from one database.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah.
Any questions for Heidi? Comments? Thank you. Okay, we do not have any contracts or change orders this evening. Ordinance first readings. Item 8A, introduction and first reading on ordinance 22-023, an ordinance to rezone a portion of 3707 Main Avenue South from a joint jurisdiction B3 to a joint jurisdiction R3A. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will review this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members. First reading tonight of ordinance 22-023 is a rezoning request in the joint jurisdiction area south of town along Main Avenue South. The primary reason for this is it's an existing B3 zoning district with a residential use on there. The homeowner would like to construct a garage attached to the home in this particular location, but in the B3 zoning, it's considered a non-conforming, non-standard use. Therefore, they're requesting to rezone that portion that the house sits on and keep the remaining land in the current B3 zoning status. They are working on a replat of this property to further define this area, but that's the basis for the rezoning request. It does come to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission recommending approval of the rezoning request, and I would stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, does the council have any questions or comments? Okay, move on to item 8B, introduction and first reading on ordinance 22-024, an ordinance to permit by conditional use, a mixed business and residential use on Lot 13A of Block 2 in Folsom's Addition, also known as 129 Main Avenue South. Mike Struck will also present this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members. Request is for a conditional use permit to establish a mixed-use business residential use in the B3 zoning district. This property is located along Main Avenue South, just on the south side of the railroad tracks, across the street from the rental depot. The request is to redevelop the lot, and they're looking at mixed-use opportunities with approximately 4,000 square feet of commercial space on the main level, and would like to do a residential use above. In our B3 zoning district, to have a mixed-use type development is through a conditional use process. This is comes to you with a unanimous recommendation, and the development review team and staff do recommend approval, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mike. Seeing none, move on. 8C, introduction and first reading on ordinance 22-025, an ordinance to rezone lots 1 through 8 on Block 4 of Hill Park Addition from a residence R2 two-family district to a business B2 district. Mike Struck will also present this.
Thank you, Mayor. 025 is a rezoning along 13th Avenue. It's bounded by 6th Street on the north and the alley on the south. You can see it on the overview. It's the yellow highlighted area. It consumes approximately 8 homes in this particular area. The applicant is looking to acquire the property and get the zoning in place to do a redevelopment project in this area, seeking the B2, which is a commercial district. To the east and west of the property are both planned development districts that have mixed-use projects. To the northeast is also a mixed-use project, planned development district, I guess, with the Bank Star location. Residential R2, two-family zoning district is to the south and to the north across the street. This is identified in our future land use map as a medium-density residential mixed-use area. It's part of our strategic overlay concept. In here, you can see, it's kind of difficult to see, but the little red box is the area that is being requested. One of the things I'd like to point out in this particular request is mixed use. Historically in Brookings has always been vertical, with your commercial on the main level with residential above. But you can also do horizontal mixed use. And so this would be an example where the north half of the block from the alley to 6th Street would be the commercial area, and the southern half of the block could remain in residential. And it's a little bit of a newer concept in Brookings because we've always historically went vertical with our mixed-use projects, but this could be done in a horizontal fashion as well. This would support the City Council's strategic goals of economic growth by rezoning property along 6th Street for expanded commercial opportunities. The development review team and staff do recommend approval. This does come to you with a 3-2 vote from the Planning Commission for approval. And with that, I would stand for any questions you may have.
Okay, is there any public comment on this particular item? Seeing none, is there questions from council? Member Wendell?
You mentioned the horizontal plan for this particular block. You know, I know one of our concerns, or maybe why we've encouraged vertical development, is just to maximize density, in particular on a commercial corridor of this nature. Are you envisioning a scenario where even if it is built just one-story commercial as designed right now, that eventually it could grow up, there could be residential on the second floor? Or are we kind of
I don't want to say it couldn't happen, but I think the way the developer is thinking with the types of uses he's looking at in that area and with the initial construction, he wants to keep it to more of a single story. When you start to look at redevelopment in these areas to really make it work with a mixed use, you really need to start looking at your underground parking. And I don't believe that's part of their overall concept at this particular time. And to add the residential component after the fact, I think would probably push some of the parking into that southern half of the block, and I think he wants to try and stay away from that. I think he wants to try and leave the southern half more in a residential status. So really not exploring it in too much detail any further with that mixed-use concept on the north side.
Thanks.
Because this would land, plans brought forward at all about that yet, or discussions had with the developer about those requirements?
It would be part of the commercial corridor design review overlay. They haven't really gotten too far in the details on those plans. They really want to make sure, can the zoning get in place first? And then there have been discussions. There are a few houses on that block that they want to save and relocate if they can find another place in the community, a surrounding community, or potentially a lake property that they would like to move those to. I'm not exactly sure on the status of those houses as far as if they have leases on them right now, but the first step is try and get the zoning in place so they can move to the next step with the design concepts. But they are aware that it is part of the commercial corridor design review overlay.
Mike, if I'm correct, none of these homes are owner occupied?
Only one owner-occupied home on that entire block, but on the specific area for rezoning, they are all rental properties.
And are they talking separate buildings or far?
I think the initial concept is potentially at least 2 buildings, maybe a third, but they'd be smaller footprint type buildings. But
Right.
they're still very.
Mike, I was just curious. Generally, we're used to seeing 5-0 votes or 7-0 votes from the Planning Commission. This was a little less enthusiasm, 3-2. Could you share with us a little bit about what some of the concerns might be?
Yeah, so the first issue is we were struggling a little bit to get quorum. So we have a 9-member planning commission. We were only able to get 5 there voting. The other issue is we do have a couple of developers on the planning commission, so they have to recuse themselves from these votes. As far as the 3-2 vote, I believe the primary focus was one planning commission member felt that because this was part of the strategic overview area in our comprehensive plan, that it should really be a planned development district, and they really wanted to restrict the uses, not necessarily the design, but what uses could go on there. I think there was some concern with the B2 because it does allow quite a bit of commercial uses. They didn't feel it was appropriate for potentially gas stations or automobile sales and things of that nature in this particular location. I'm not quite as concerned with that. Those uses typically look for hard corners. It's true that 12th Avenue does have a traffic signal there, but when you look at the traffic patterns, our hard corners in this community are really Madera Avenue, 17th Avenue, 22nd Avenue, Main Avenue, and then as you start to look at our east-west, I think what they're looking at here is more of the retail type uses, potentially food establishments that could cater to some of these areas. And the other part that we have 2 mixed-use projects on either side of this. And one of the things with mixed-use projects is you really try to bring in additional businesses that provide services to cater to those mixed-use projects that have that higher density, so that they can walk to and from to get the services that they would like for their area. I think the other comment on the planned development district, it came down to wanting to have a say in the types of uses that would go on the property. I think the thing that's in place now is with that commercial corridor design review overlay, there are regulations in place that really control the overall design of the site. and that's been kind of a focus and priority, not only from the comprehensive plan, but just from the city in general, is making sure we're getting high quality design. And we feel that we can achieve that with the commercial corridor overlay, and don't necessarily feel that a planned development district is necessary in this case. As additional background information, with PDDs, they can be very restrictive, and over time can actually be a detriment to the development. And not to pick on any particular location, but we got a commercial PDD in this community that on 6th Street that has had over 40 some amendments. And so they wanted to tear down a building and build a new building, and the footprint was going to be 3 feet further in one direction than where the old building sat. But based upon the regulations, it had to run through the whole review process all over again. And so it can be somewhat restrictive with the PDD. It's a great concept on the front end, but it can be very restrictive 10, 15, 20 years down the road as uses change, as buildings age, as renovations occur. And I believe the commercial corridor is a good tool that we have available now that is probably more conducive to being flexible with development as things change over time.
I don't have a question, Mike. I maybe would. I asked related to whether or not down the road residential could be feasible. I'm supportive of the redevelopment of this block. I know that we're in the midst of a kind of a transitional phase on 6th Street between 17th and Madary, and it'll come with some growing pains, in particular for those neighborhoods just south of these blocks. I do have maybe some concern about this particular development because there are several houses on that block now that are not owner occupied. They're rental houses. They probably accommodate between 20 and 24 residents right now that will all be removed right in the core of the community. And I know one of our intentions behind the comprehensive master plan was to create mixed use developments that would maximize density along that commercial corridor that would bring commercial and residential back into those blocks. And so I do have some pause with the idea that we would be wiping out a nice residential, even though, rental residential block right in the core of the community and not replacing it with residential. It's a departure from the decisions we've made on the neighboring blocks, I guess. And that wasn't a question. I just wanted to just put it out there. I apologize.
We good?
I
Go
do
ahead,
have a follow-up question that would maybe piggyback on that. Do we have an idea of if they do keep the half of that kind of residential, how many units they would be able to keep in there, or do they have an idea about that yet?
As far as, with their proposal, they're not proposing any residential on that from the alley north to 6th Street. It would be the existing housing stock that's in place on the south side of the alley down to 5th Street. And I think that was one of the things we discussed through that comprehensive plan process, is making sure that we really take into consideration that 5th Street and how we're buffering that and not impacting too much as we, redevelop along 6th Street. So, at this time, they're not really looking to do anything with the south half. That would stay under the current ownership of those properties. It would just be the north half. And so when we looked at the mixed use, we look at it from the entire block. And so that's where the horizontal could come into play. I believe with their initial concept, they're trying to maintain a pretty, a nice landscape green space buffer from the alley to the north to try and minimize the impact. But they still haven't gotten far enough down their concept, but they're trying to do a commercial development that would have as minimal impact on the adjacent neighborhoods to the south. I guess to go back to Councilmember Wendell's comment, it's always a concern when you have the potential of losing housing units in your community, and how do you make up for those loss of housing units? I think one of the things it's not relevant to this particular project, but the project next door to the west, the Lofts at Park Hill, when that was originally designed, I believe there was about 36 beds that were contained in those houses that were there. And when the project was completed, there were 70 new bedrooms made available with their new project. It helped add some bedrooms within the neighborhood, but yeah, understanding that you have the potential to lose 20 to 30 potential bedrooms, 8 units, and what impact does that have on our housing stock in the community? And so that's always a concern.
Any other comments? Joey?
Go ahead.
Well, Joey wanted to. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can go first.
Go ahead,
Well,
Bonnie.
can you just clarify for me, please? You said that the residential's on the south side
So-
of the alley?
So-
So it's not in this zoning?
No. So right now, that entire block is all residential. And in our comp plan, block as medium density mixed use development. And that's where I talked about is historically in Brookings, we've always looked at mixed use projects as going vertical, but they could go horizontal. So as when you look at the entire block, commercial on the north half of the block, the existing residential stays in place on the south half. That's what my intentions were from the mixed use, and I apologize if I was misleading or confusing on that.
Thanks.
Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Bonnie. That was a good question. That's what I was going to ask too. My other question was, this area, would it could it hold a marijuana dispensary? This area, would it qualify for that? I know we don't know what's in there yet or what's going to be right now, but I'm just curious. I'm just curious if it would meet the criteria.
I haven't done the cross-referencing with it, but I believe it could because the property identified as 1310 6th Street is eligible. The one thing I'd have to look at is I think it's going to be eligible, but we do acknowledge in the Pugsley Fishback Early Childhood Development Center, we identify that as a school because they run a kindergarten section of class through there, through the Brookings School District in a partnership with South Dakota State University. So that building does qualify and is considered a school. So we have a 1,000-foot buffer from that. I don't think it quite gets to this property. So I think I need to verify, but I'm pretty sure it would be eligible.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Councilmember Tilton Burn.
So just again to kind of clarify, the only change we would really be looking at in terms of what the development plan isn't necessarily adding any housing. The only housing that would be within this plan would be the existing housing that is not removed. The housing that is removed would then be replaced with commercial. So the only addition of new building would be commercial space.
At this time, that's what they're requesting. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Seeing more comments or questions coming up. 3 of these items that Mike has brought before us, 8A, 8B, 8C, will have second readings on July 12th, our next stated meeting. Item 9A, public hearing and action on a commercial corridor design review overlay district site plan for 134 Main Avenue South. Mike will present this item also.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'm going to help you the rental depot. So I think everyone's familiar with that. They are looking at doing an expansion, but technically it falls within the commercial corridor design review overlay district. They're basically looking to add storage space enclosed, have some garage doors open to the south as well as to the west. We reviewed this through the development review team and staff, and we felt that this is a project that technically it falls within that commercial corridor design review overlay district requirements, but we feel that this is really a project that should be exempt. You can't really see any of the expansion from the street right away of Main Avenue South And that was one of the recommendations that DRT and staff sent forward, and it's also one that the Planning Commission recommended come to you as well. This is a non-conforming property, so in the B3 district, there's a 5-foot side yard requirements, there's a 20-foot front yard setback requirement. The existing building isn't being renovated or removed. There's just no way for them to achieve those required setbacks. So we looked at other ways of, how can we allow a local business to expand, make an investment in the community, and provide a benefit to the community. And so we do allow within our zoning ordinance that if they can't provide the adequate parking on the particular parcel, that if they can provide it on another parcel within 300 feet, that is certainly something that is eligible and open for consideration and would be supportive. With the expansion of a non-conforming use, it requires you to try and meet all of the yard and area lot requirements, which just simply aren't achievable. They are planning to replat. On the screen, you'll see 134 and 140 Main Avenue. They're going to replat and combine them into one. So they'll actually achieve conformance on the south side of the property, but unfortunately, they're just not able to achieve it on the north and east sides. One of the things that we did talk about, and as far as trying to improve the property, sometimes it's not able to achieve perfection, but can we make it better? And so in this particular case, I think there's an opportunity along Main Avenue to achieve some additional landscaping, and that's what you see on the overhead screen before you, is to require that 10-foot landscaping strip, essentially from that sidewalk area just on the south side of their building, to extend that all the way down to their south driveway entrance, as well as adding the 5-foot landscaping area kind of on the northwest portion. Sometimes people look at landscaping as, well, it's a beautification. In this particular case, yes, that we do achieve that along Main Avenue, but in the northwest corner of this project, it's also a way to help provide a little bit extra area to absorb some of the runoff from the roof canopies that come down downspouts, to help soak in instead of constantly pushing it downstream to the next person. So with that, this does come to you with a 5-0 recommendation from the Planning Commission, with a couple of exceptions, if I can get my thing to work, that it would be exempt from the Commercial Corridor Design Review Overlay District requirements, that as part of the expansion, they have to replat, which would be Lot 4, Lot 5, and the north 12 feet of Lot 6 and Block 4, Folsom Addition. Essentially, 134 and 140 Main Avenue would be combined into one lot. And then the expansion would require the addition of the front and side yard landscape areas and one tree planting. And so you can see kind of those recommendations on the overhead screen. And with that, I would stand for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mike. Open the public hearing on this item. You want to say a few words or anything, Ryan?
So I appreciate one thing that when we were having the meeting, I didn't quite catch, and after I was talking to Ryan Miller later, I guess one part I kind of thought I disagree with a little bit, and I would ask for an exception if we can. I understand the 5-foot on the north side would be nice, maybe for some, drainage issues, I guess, for absorption. But there's a fence all along the north side, and the building's going to cover, 3/4 of that from the south side. So getting anything to grow back there is going to be difficult. Be difficult to maintain. I would, if it would be plausible, I would like to remove that on the north side, as it just seems kind of unnecessary to me. Doesn't make it right, but that's kind of, I'd like to remove that so that's more usable for our access to our utilities and whatever else we may be able to do that would be screened from public view
and it's a 5-foot setback. And I kept that 5-foot setback. I didn't ask for it to go all the way the width, just so we could have some room back there for utilities. I plan on having the electrical move back there, the air conditioners and stuff like that move back there, and you know, like I said, it would make a great area to keep things screened for smaller items and whatnot. And again, keeping things maintained back there would be, I'm afraid it would just turn into a mud hole. So
I guess, Mike, if I think about this, plant in it, it can be just nice, clean gravel rock.
Well, our landscaping would require some plants. I mean, they could do like a rock, xeriscaping type material, but we do need some living there. So it couldn't just be 100% rock.
Okay.
We would require some living ground cover plant material of some sort.
All right. Anybody else? Public? Seeing none. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the council? Councilmember Wendell.
Thank you, Mayor. I ask a couple clarifying questions about the 5 feet that Ryan's referencing. So if I remember right, there's an existing fence there right now between that property and the back parking lot of that mixed-use building next to it, right?
Correct.
So what we're asking for is that that fence would remain in place, but that there would be landscaping around that existing fence that he'd be responsible for?
Yes. So essentially from the property line, you know, his existing building is pretty much right on the property line. His expansion is he's keeping it set back 5 feet off of that north property line. So from the building to the property line, and you can see the little red box that says where his utilities are. That's the area kind of that we'd be looking at for landscaping. You can still there, you know, your pedestals for your AC units, or you have your electrical box or transformer or whatnot, could still be set in that area. We were just saying is we should incorporate some landscaping of some sort.
Where would, I want to make sure I understand where the sight lines would be visible from anywhere?
Probably just from the alley.
Yeah.
So in a typical commercial area, you'd have 5 feet along the side lot line, which would be a landscaped area. And then the neighboring property would have 5, so you'd have 10 feet total. In this case, I mean, it's a small area because the existing building is built pretty much to the north property line, so it's just kind of where the addition is. And it's not going to probably amount to a significant amount when you look at the overall scheme of everything with this site plan. But you're only probably going to see it from the alleyway.
I'm inclined to amend that expectation out of it. I want to make sure if we did that, though. So there's a fence there now, which really obscures most of the view. If the fence went away, though, then it would all be exposed to from that street and from the.
Well, there's really not a street there. It'd be exposed to the
Like that
mixed-use property to the north of Offset on Main. From their parking lot is kind of the adjacent property. So there's really no street per se there. You would be able to see maybe a little bit more of it as you're coming down the alley from the north going southbound through the alley. But it's.
I guess I appreciate the thoughtfulness around incorporating green space and landscaping along Main Street or Main Avenue. I think that makes good sense and is aligned with our intention behind the commercial corridor. I'm not certain in this space that it seems to be worthwhile to ask the business owner to invest in green space in a location that would not be visible from either of the streets. So I guess for that reason, I maybe would request or make a motion to amend.
Just do a friendly amendment on that. Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Councilmember Tilton Burn.
Mike, you had mentioned that part of the reason drainage. Are there drainage issues on this property that would be alleviated if we did include the green space?
I guess the best way to say that is I don't think that small area is going to solve any major drainage issues, but I think every time that we have an opportunity to look at projects and redevelopment or expansions, if we can make small incremental improvements, it helps the overall system. But is there major problems on this site right now? I mean, it's pretty much all impervious surfacing as it is with the buildings, the gravel parking lots and such. There's not a lot of green space at all on this area. So,
Councilmember Bree.
Just out of curiosity, kind of piggybacking on that, are there other solutions that could be explored for drainage instead of landscaping there?
I'm sure we could probably explore some of those options. I mean, most of the ones that we've seen commonly around here is when you don't incorporate landscaping or detention ponds, they start looking at underground. And at this particular time, a drainage plan isn't required for this site. So, I mean, it's pretty much the decision is landscaping or don't do landscaping, and the project just moves forward.
Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Tilton Burn.
I'm curious to know if maybe there's not green space, but instead perhaps like some kind of surface that would allow for drainage still, perhaps pavers or something along that line. I guess I'm not sure exactly which material would be best used, but is there some maybe middle ground where we aren't necessarily doing green space? There could still potentially be the use of moving things and placing things back there, but also would still allow for that drainage.
I suppose we could, work with the applicant on that to see if there's some creative solutions that could come about from that. I mean, it is a small area. It's 5 feet wide by, I'm not even exactly sure on the total distance there. We just look at it as any opportunity to try and make something a little bit better. But there's not a lot in this area of the community from a storm sewer collection system. A lot of it is surface drainage through the alley to curb, and then eventually meanders its way to an inlet. But there's not a lot of storm sewer pipe in this area of the community. So we're just looking at, just wanted to make sure that we were doing our best as projects occur to consider those different options to try and make incremental improvements in the area. So,
And I think there are definitely things that we should consider thinking about as we continue to look at projects like this. And I actually appreciate that we're exploring those kinds of options. Would it be appropriate in your mind if we did some kind of compromise where perhaps it isn't green space, you could still maybe place some things back there? I don't know if we do gravel or something along those lines, but would that be acceptable to you?
Yeah, that's, as I said in the meeting, I'm always open to looking at outside the box. However, when we talk about drainage and when you put rock down, what do you put underneath the rock? You put gravel, and then you put plastic so nothing grows. So as far as what's going to get absorbed in there, probably not much. The other thing is as far as what kind of drainage that side of the building would see, there is a curb along there. So any drainage from the lot to the north of me already goes to the alley. This plan would have gutters along there. Any drainage that would go in there probably wouldn't see that area anyway. It would get kicked into the alley by, gutters collecting it off the building, and it would probably get discharged at the very west side of that. So as far as how much water would this see on a rain, only what that particular ground sees, and it's probably not going to get any runoff because of the parking lot to the north of it having a curb there. And then they also have their trash receptacles along there as well. So at the very far, almost at 20 feet, so there's 40 foot of building, and then there's 26 feet roughly to the alley. And so that spot between the alley and where my building would end is their trash receptacles. So they have a nice curbing all the way along there. So as far as what it's going to see for moisture during rain is next to nothing, other than what's physically falling in that 5 foot area. Did that answer your question?
Okay. Any other discussion or comment? Let's vote on the amendment.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Doran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Amendment passed. Is there any questions or comments or on the original motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 9B, public hearing and action on Resolution 22-048, a resolution of intent to lease hayland located on the east half of Amit Addition. Jeremy Linstead, our street manager and interim solid waste manager, will present this item.
Council. This resolution will allow the city to enter into a contract with Joshua Burnt for the hayland lease on the Ahmed Edition on the east one half, with the terms for 23 and 24. The city awarded a contract to Joshua Burnt on May 24th, 2022 to lease 26 acres of hayland for the bid price of $95 per acre. The city leases the property for hay, which provides an extra income for the city as well as decreases expenses. Thank you for your time, and I'll entertain any questions.
Thanks, Jeremy. Open public hearing on this item. Seeing no public comment, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any council questions or comments on this item? Please call the roll.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 9C, public hearing and action on a temporary alcohol application from the Brookings Area Chamber Downtown Committee to host a series of events for downtown at sundown on the 300 block of 5th Street and the 400 block of Main Avenue. Bonnie Foster, our city clerk, will present.
Mayor, council members, and members of the public, this is a temporary application presented to you by the Brookings Area Chamber, not necessarily the Downtown Committee. Just wanted to make sure you clarified that. We had that error in the packet. This is
All right.
through the chamber, not the Downtown Committee. And so the event is downtown at sundown. The dates of the license, there's 5 dates coming forward for us: July 21, 28, August 4th, 11th, and 18th. Chamber staff are present here if you have any questions for them, and staff recommends approval.
All right. Thanks, Bonnie. Open the public hearing on this item.
Yeah, we
You
just
wanna
wanted
make
to.
any comments here, Kelsey?
You bet, absolutely. So I just want to introduce, you might know him as our Grand Poobah, but he's head honcho in charge of downtown at sundown, Reagan Weiderick. He's going to give you a little update and answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Bonnie Foster, for help today. Really excited for the upcoming events this summer. Haven't necessarily experienced downtown at sundown, but I've heard lots of good things. The first 21st of July, the first one we have is Ivory, a local band coming back to town, and they have lots of excitement coming from as far north as Minneapolis and Fargo, coming to Brookings for that one. So a lot of good things to share, good news that way there for you guys. We're excited to see thousands of people kind of descend upon Brookings for those evenings and have a good time, family-friendly fun as well for downtown. So we'll open it to questions.
So I have a question for you on that. Is this the 80s?
To my knowledge,
Very cool. All right. Any other questions or comments from the public? Closed public hearing. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Council, have any questions or comments besides mine? Please call the roll.
Avery,
Thank you.
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We have no other business. City progress report is going to be presented. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. 9D, public hearing and action on temporary alcohol application for RGO Incorporated, DBA Pheasant Restaurant and Lounge for Brookings Community Theater fundraiser on June 29th, 2022, to be held at the Brookings City Cinema, 8 to 19 6th Street. Bonnie will also present this.
Mayor, council members, and members of the audience, yes, this is a temporary alcohol application submitted from the Pheasant Restaurant. Michael is here this evening if you have any questions for him. This is a partnership event with the Cinema 8 and Dick Peterson, a fundraiser for our local Brookings Community Theater. The event organizers are present, so if any questions you may have, please address them. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, open public hearing on this item. Seeing no public comments, entertain a motion to approve.
Approved.
So moved.
Council questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
A motion passed, but I think Councilmember Wendell wanted to make a comment or a question.
No, I just had a brief question about whether or not he's present, but I can ask Michael after the meeting.
Okay. All right. So we don't have no other business. City progress report. Chelsea Bakken, our public information officer, will present that item.
Good evening, Mayor. Public. This is the June 2020. The city has launched a new capital improvement projects website section. This is a new section that was a collaboration between several different departments to bring information about capital improvement projects in the city to the public in a way that they can kind of explore on their own and get more information. Each section, or the site section, features a capital improvement story section that is a GIS section that they can navigate through to find more information about projects. Also, there's an interactive GIS map where they can hover or click over different parts on the map and learn about the projects based on where they are in the community. And also, there are dedicated project pages for each one of the CIP projects that is currently happening in the street and engineering departments right now. Those pages include overviews of the project, updates. In the future, will include detour and route information that's not currently on there yet, but it is coming. Project milestones, key dates, and contacts for the different project managers, etc. This is a work in progress. I encourage you to go look at the section, and if you have any suggestions or feedback, we would love to hear it. But we will be making updates as we see how the community uses the page and how they like it and how they navigate through that. So the web address is listed on the bottom of the slide there. Interchange project update. Recent updates include work over the past month, including a center pier, east abutment. Half of the girders have been installed. The eastern and western approaches to the bridge have had significant progress as well, and storm drainage has started. And water main installation is continuing. The next steps are the western approach to the bridge, which will be installed. Bridge work will continue with western abutment, and the rest of the girders will be installed. And the substantial completion is set for or anticipated July of 2023. The state actually just released a press release today on that. If you want to see that, you can go to the state website, or it is also on our social media accounts. The 15th Street and 7th Avenue project update. Work that has been performed over the last month. Base gravel has been installed. Significant progress has been made on curb and gutter. Several ramps and half of the sidewalk have been installed. East Valley gutter has been installed, and the installation of asphalt surface has happened. Next steps include finishing curb and gutter, finishing the sidewalk, topsoil, and seeding. And the anticipated completion date for that is July of 2022.
the main Avenue and 8th Street South project, there has been lots of work performed over the last month. A detour has been established. There was a public meeting, and there was a lot of good feedback provided at the meeting. And based on that feedback, the city has implemented a number of initiatives to address concerns that the public had, including no parking on 7th Avenue, installation of stop signs, and also better signage for businesses. Also, work performed over the last month is the excavation of asphalt surfaces, water main installation, and installing a new water and sewer services. Next steps on that project will to be excavating and replacing base gravel and starting to pour a concrete surface. The anticipated completion is early August. An update on the Stormwater Master Plan. There was recently a Stormwater Committee meeting where they discussed problems and identified areas through stormwater modeling. There was a small group exercise to discuss project prioritization weighting. Potential projects were also identified, and there was a stormwater fee discussion. Next steps on this project include integrating a new infrared data into the model, analyzing stormwater fee and funding, and also maintenance practices and schedule. The expected completion for this is late fall, and you can visit the website to learn more information. An update on the police chief search. The city is currently requesting community input from the public for community questions for the interview panel that will be happening on the 11th. The event happens at 5:30 here in the chambers, and those questions that are collected through the website or in person or digitally, and that can also be dropped off, will be asked during that time. More information can be found on the city's webpage. The Economic Master Plan, Development Master Plan, the city is completing that Economic Development Master Plan. The project will provide strategic direction for the city by identifying key opportunities for growth and partnerships, as well as recommended place-based development strategies. The other goals of the project also include creating a framework for supporting businesses and investments for investment attraction, and also small business development in targeted sectors. There's a survey available for residents and business owners to take. They can visit the website and the address there to take that. As of right now, 680 residents and over 70 businesses have taken the survey so far. Based on that, the plan will include data analysis, surveys, and stakeholder engagement. And a roundtable will occur in July, and the finalized report will be given at council this fall. Those surveys are available through the end of the month. On June 8th, the city hosted the bike rodeo. There was about over 200 kiddos that showed up to take part in that, decorating their bikes and learning about safety. The different members or different organizations worked together to put that event on, so we just want to send a thank you to the police department, the library, the streets department for setting everything up, the Brookings Optimist Club, and the VFW Auxiliary. On June 17th, we celebrated the Waste and Recycling Workers Day holiday, and actually there was that whole week is Waste and Recycling Workers Week. So we just wanted to give a big thank you to our solid waste division and all of the workers. They have really put in a lot of work this year, especially with the recent storm damage and derecho. So it was really wonderful to be able to give them a big shout out last week. There was a lot of people that did say thank you. So if you run into anybody that works in that department or division, make sure you say thank you and maybe give them a high five and tell them that they have really nice smiles in the picture. I know that they were talking about that, whether or not they were going to smile. It turned out really great. Update for the Swift Hill Center. This month there were 18 event days. Events included the Got Milk Gala, which had 200 attendees, the South Dakota Quarter Horse Association annual event, And also upcoming is the Uncle Sam Jam that takes place July 4th. It's exciting to see that will be back at the Swiftel Center this year. The doors will open at 5 p.m. It is free and open to the public. There is lots of fun to be had, and there will be a band and fireworks. Also of note, the Brookings Radio 4th of July Parade that is also sponsored by the Brookings Fire Department will be taking place that morning. Last year, it took place a little bit later in the day because it fell on a Sunday, but this year the lineup begins at 9:30 and the parade begins at 11. The lineup takes place right by the police department on 3rd and 3rd, and it is the regular parade route that will go down 3rd Street to Main, or 3rd Street to Madera, over down 3rd Street to Madera, back down 6th Street, and then back down Main, back to 3rd. So I encourage all to attend. I believe that some of you are participating this year, so I'm really excited to see that. Lots of candy and fun and 4th of July celebrations. With that, I open to any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Chelsea? Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Okay, upcoming meeting agenda items. Anybody got anything they want to bring up? Okay, let's look at our next meeting, which will be the 12th of July. Right now, we have no first readings or contracts or change orders. Second readings are the 3 items that we looked at tonight. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.